Fairy Sightings podcast, where we listen to people's fairy encounters. But take heed, we're not talking about winged Tinkerbells here. These are real fairies, real encounters that took people like you and I by surprise. Stay a while and hear their stories. My name is Jo Hickey Hall, and I'm a folklore researcher. Hello everybody and welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings podcast. I'm Jo Hickey Hall and I am joined this time by Philippe Hannetelle, who is a teacher of the body mirror system of healing. Welcome, Philippe.
Welcome and thank you to invite me for this podcast.
Well, thank you so much for making time to come to speak to me. I would love to hear how it's been for you, Philippe, to find Body Mirror System. Obviously, you're now a teacher, but I'd like to hear how you kind of heard about it and also to hear kind of what it's like for you to hold these classes, because you do a lot of the European classes.
I teach mostly now in Greece and Italy and Portugal. Yeah. And in fact, how I came to the BMS, it's a long story, but I am going to make it short. In fact, when I was a child, a nephew of my grandmother was, how do you say in English, a radiesthesist or dowser. He was working with a pendulum, analyzing blood paper with the saliva of people, and with the pendulum he was finding the symptom and prescribing homeopathic drugs.
Right.
And when I was born, my mother had some phlegm, some swollen arms, and no doctors found a solution. And my grandmother told her, "Hey, you should contact Pierre because he's very good." And my mother did so, and she sent this blood paper with saliva, and a few days later she received a prescription with homeopathic drugs. She took the treatment, and so in some days the phlegms disappeared. And after, so we were in touch and following this treatment, so almost all year long, you know. And when I grew up and became a teenager, and so I was visiting him very often. And I had my first experience with energy and consciousness with him, because he wrote a book in the 50s in French with another person. And the book was, in fact, about you are a creator and everything begins in your consciousness. And he was the first to introduce me to Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi, and the life of the master in the Far East, and so on. And when I was visiting him one time, he said that the last time we see each other, I'm going to leave my body. And so I heard him, but it was like, so why is he saying that? And in fact, a few weeks later, I was visiting with my wife at that time, my parents, and they just received a letter from him saying bye-bye. And so immediately I took the car with my wife. We were driving 2 hours, and when we arrived, his door was slightly open and we came in. The family was already there. He was lying on the bed dead. And so it was like, wow. And after that, I had no more somebody to speak with, because it was in the, I say 75, 80s. So I was in a small town in France and speaking about consciousness, spirituality. So it was not very welcome.
No.
And so I read a lot of books about spirituality, but no more direct experiences. And in fact, after being a train driver during 13 years, having this bar in Belgium, after I had during 3 years, a company to sell recycled paper in the east of France, in Metz. Financially, it was a disaster, and I was looking for possibilities to sell this recycled paper. And so I was participating to some spiritual fair, organic fair, and so on. And in Belgium, in Brussels, first time I met the body mirror system, and Martin was there, but I didn't know them, but I was attracted. And Martin came over looking at had the recycled paper. So, and that's it. And 2 weeks later, I was in another spiritual fair in the south of Belgium. And there was a stand of the BMS there, and Martin was there with Daniel Berchem and Luxembourg instructors and some other people. And because nobody was buying my recycled paper, I closed my place, and I was listening to the talk of Martin. And I said, but I know that because it reminds me of the nephew of my grandmother. And so at the end of this fair, I found myself with Martin and the other people in a bar to complete the fair and to drink something. And someone told me, hey, you should come. There is an intensive in a few days. And at that time, financially, it was so difficult. I had no money to participate. And someone told me, here is the money for you. But I say, I am not going to do, I will not be able to give you back the money. It's not necessary. It's unconditional. And for me, I didn't know what meant unconditional at that time. And after some resistances, finally, I accept the money. And so some days later, I found myself in my first intensive with Martin. And at that time, I was nearsighted. I was wearing glasses. I had astigmatism, and so for the first time during this intensive, I was able to see better, and I felt this change in my consciousness. Yeah, it was really really great. Yeah, that was my first encounter with the body mirror system and Martin. So
That's wow. You're it's so lovely to hear you talk about that. I had a really similar experience with the vision and just consciousness shift
yeah.
immediately with that. And when you're talking about intensive there, you're talking about just for people that are not familiar with body mirror system, they're intensive weekends. So that's what they call them, isn't it? A weekend intensive. So it's where you come for the 2 days and you do a course within that 2 days. And then they've got the kind of longer courses, which are usually Wednesday to Sunday morning.
Yeah, yeah, so
Wednesday night.
mostly, yeah. Just for example, in Greece, next week it will begin on Friday because they have some celebration, some free day, and like that, people are able to participate without taking holidays or removing
Oh, cool.
some days from their holidays. Yeah,
Makes sense. Yes.
yeah,
The
yeah.
intensive weekend. Goodness me, that's really amazing then. Did you find that other things happened in your life as well afterwards when you so obviously your vision had changed, but then when you went back to whatever it was that was going on in your life, did you find that other things had shifted?
Oh yeah, 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 a lot. So because I stopped the company, so I gave that to somebody else, and I decided, okay, now I want to jump with the 2 feet in the healing reality, because in fact, with the nephew of my grandmother, we were talking, and it was like the door was open at that time. But so I was in this other reality, train driver, and married, and so nearsighted, so insecure about living something in which I was financially well, and so going to something unknown. And yeah, because also the nephew of my grandmother. So, in the before, but it's still like that in France. So it's like charlatanism.
Oh, it's
It's
you.
about working with the pendulum. And so he had some problem with the doctor's order, and it's still the same. In France, we are almost the only country to have this list of sects.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
other country it's open and no problem, but in France it's really difficult. Yeah,
No, yeah. I don't know what I mean. Obviously, this is the scene of where the execution of the Cathars took place as well, isn't it? I mean, but
yeah, yeah.
it's not that much more open-minded in Britain. I don't know what you think. I think I'm kind of in a bubble with it all because I've been going to, healing fairs and healing workshops since the 90s, and I feel very comfortable at these places. And we've been looking at these ideas for a long time, but then I forget that when you go out in the wider world and you talk about healing, people just, as you say, they think that this is some kind of
Yeah,
charlatans trying to, that they're faking something. Or and I really dearly wish that everyone could experience what it's like, to have that kind of shift, and because you really feel it, you feel different, your body feels different, and most importantly, when you go back into your life, things change. As you say, you make those steps that always felt as if that they were thresholds that you'd never be able to cross, and it feels impossible. And how could you ever have a life like that when this is life and this is how it goes, and you're kind of plodding along. The other thing I noticed when I first went to that body mirror system was it was like the colors became more vibrant. It's almost like sort of being in a sepia or black and white film or something, and you're going through your life and it's just kind of happening, and it's almost like you're not quite, it's like you're not at the wheel, you're not driving it, you're just sort of, I don't know, not even playing the main part in your own life.
yeah,
And after the healing, it felt I got the I'm also short sighted, and when after the healing, I didn't need to wear specs anymore. I could see the crispness of the leaves outside on the trees. That's the first thing I noticed, because we were on second or third floor at the London College of Psychic Studies. That's where I did my
yeah,
first
yeah,
course with him. And just, yeah, just I remember walking around afterwards, and the people that I'd been at the workshop with those past 2 days or however long I'd been there suddenly said, "You look different. We can actually see your face." And it was almost as if before there'd been some kind of veil where, and it did feel like that. That's what it felt like in my life. It felt like I was kind of really disconnected to my life, and I sort of almost just resigned myself to the fact that that's what life was like. And the other really big thing for me was that when I opened my eyes, I said to him, "The fear has gone." That's my first words were, "The fear has gone." And it was here, it was around my heart area. And I didn't even know, well, between heart and solar plexus,
yeah,
actually,
mm,
it was kind of here.
yeah,
And the thing is that I hadn't even known that I was frightened. That's the sad thing about it, is that I hadn't known that I had just been walking through my whole life, or at least at some point I slipped into that way of being, and that was just normal for me. I was just walking around just so frightened of everything, which of course speaks of the,
yeah.
the vision. The being short-sighted is retreating from the world. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that the most important thing for me happening during healing, and because yes, you have physical healing, and so, but I think the most important is the shift in the consciousness, and I could experience that for myself, because in the intensive with Martin, and also now still now with Anik and me each evening, the classroom becomes a discotheque.
Mm.
And in fact, Martin was saying maybe it's the most important part of the workshop. And in fact, yes, because I remember at first I was sitting on a chair against the wall, looking at people on the dance floor, and I was thinking, oh, it would be really nice if I can dance. I jump on the dance floor, and suddenly, no, 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 you are not going to do that because people are going to look at you. You don't know how to dance. You have to relate with women on the dance floor, and you are not secure. And in fact, when I was talking to myself that way, I felt bad, and yeah, my eyesight was even worse after.
Yeah.
Until some days later, I said I was not serious about my goal. In fact, seeing clearly without my glasses, and I had, even if I felt insecure, I had to stop to be in this frame of fear. I had to decide to jump, and I did that. And in fact, at first, I was tense. Okay, it was my mind that was dancing my body, and after a while, I stopped to control myself, and in fact, I began to move the way I wanted to move, and Martin was telling me after, yeah, it was your spirit dancing your body, no more your mental and your control, and that was for me important. And after, yes, in the workshop, for me the most important is to see when people arrived, and yeah, you have the old participants, they know each other, they give hugs and so, but the new ones, they are in their bubble and with their tension, their symptoms, and to see this process of transformation during each day. And at the end, it's like a sense of unity, because when we teach, when we begin, after each healing, as a teacher or instructor, we have to erase our mental screen and to take a fresh look about how the healing is taking place for each participant. And in fact, everybody in the workshop should do that for themselves and for the other. And like that, it helps everybody to jump in the new reality, to change their vibration, to bring them really in the physical reality. And at the end of the workshop, yes, people have this more and more this sense of unity and feeling more and more this unconditional love and compassion and acceptance. After, the question is, when they go out, are they able to maintain? And that's the most important thing also, because it's in their hands, and they have to continue to, yeah, to work on themselves. But also really in relation with the medical reality. I don't know if when Annick was doing the podcast with you, if she was talking about the work Jérôme is doing in the north of France
Right.
now with, so he's working since now 2 years with an oncologist and a general doctor, generalist, and so they work with people having cancer. And in fact, the medical order, I don't know, the board, medical board, they accept that. Okay, they agree, and it was already the door is open, and they began with a list of questions. How the cancer began, and what was happening in your life when the cancer began, and everybody was answering, and the oncologist was just because everybody has something to say about a situation in their life happening in which they felt unhappy. And so that's the beginning. And now they are giving conferences in different parts of France about so the connection between the consciousness and the body. So it's moving slowly, but it's moving. And that's very important. And uh, because when we speak about healing, so people they don't know exactly what we mean and what's happening, and you can explain with words, but once again, it's just words. The most important is the feeling and to participate and to see.
Exactly. I think I had that recently where someone was saying, "Well, how does it work then?" And it's like, well, I mean, I could kind of direct somebody to view the conversation I had with Annie. It's very hard to put into words.
Yeah,
It's there's a sense with it, and also, you do need to be open to it. If you're going to sort of just be really closed about it, then there's nothing, that's your choice, isn't it? But it's very hard to put into words if somebody's just refusing to be open to the idea that it is possible, because it is possible. We've all seen it happen. But this is amazing news that the medical board in northern France are taking this on board and actually looking at the relationship between
yeah.
the body, the physical symptoms, and the consciousness, and that, as you say, a terminal disease, when it arose, asking the patient then, or at least opening to the idea that the patient had something going on in their lives at the time.
Yeah, but I think that's the future, because we have the same purpose, okay, to work for the well-being of everybody, and I think a lot of doctors recognize now that they have to make the connection between the body and the mind, so mind-body connection. Okay, and now also with quantum physics and biology, they see that yeah, something is different compared to what they were thinking before, you know,
Mm.
and this. Sentence of Descartes, I think, therefore I am. So, and here it's I don't think, therefore.
Yeah, well, very true. And I guess, in some respects, I know definitely in the UK anyway, they definitely make the link between stress and symptoms. They're already aware of that. So
Yeah.
that's good in itself. When you've got situations where I know that the place where we're holding the body mirror system that Anique's about to come and teach in November in Bristol
Yeah.
is at a centre for people that are going through, cancer, um, or their families, and their families, and they offer things like Reiki, and other, I guess things like meditation and
Mhm.
stress relieving exercises, workshops, therapies. So, so that's really encouraging that it is being recognized and that things are shifting. But to hear that they're looking at body mirror system and seeing how that's helping people is wonderful news, and I'm excited about that. I wanted to ask you also about, the kinds of things that you've witnessed taking place in your classes. If somebody is watching this and they've never been to one of these classes before, what sorts of situations have you observed happening with people when they kind of come in the door to when they leave?
I can explain first my experience, my own experience. In fact, I was participating to an intensive of Martin in the south of France, and I don't know if you remember Francisco del Campo, who organized
Do you remember
intensive,
Francisco?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
in the south, also in Champagne, and he was translating from time to time. And I was talking with him before the beginning of the intensive, and he said, "Oh, I have a lot of work. It would be good if someone could translate." He was saying that like that, you know. And I said, "Oh, I could do it. Oh, you could do it. So I am going to ask Martin." And he asked Martin. Martin said yes, and suddenly I found myself as Martin's translator. And my English at that time was not so fluent as it is now,
Thank
but it was like for me. Just going again through this frame of fear and saying you are able to do that, you know,
you.
and that's the most important thing I can see in a lot of participants during the workshop. It's suddenly they do things that they thought they were unable to do before, and beside yes, the tension in my shoulders disappear, or I feel better, or I see better. That's very important for sure for them, but at the same time, also when we give a feedback after the healing, it's to bring the person the direction of their attention toward the inside, to feel also how it's different after the healing compared to before, and to give them these points of reference about what we saw in their consciousness, and what they need to do after in order to stay in balance and to manifest fully the healing at the physical level. And so that's for me the most important thing, is to see this process of transformation. And for me, that's the reason I enjoy to always to teach a workshop. It's because I enjoy to see this transformation process in, also for me, because I receive a lot. Okay, and to see that happening for everybody, and the amount of love, and you have shared a workshop, you know how you feel with the love, and suddenly it's like overwhelming sometimes. Okay, it's a lot, and yeah, sometimes there are also some resistances coming up, because after weeks, months, or years of suppressed emotions, suddenly receiving a lot of love and energy. And if the person, there is a difference between a person saying, I want to be healed, and what's really happening inside. Sometimes they are a bit afraid of letting go of some situation. And so they resist, and but all the love and energies they receive has to take place, and so sometimes it's a bit like Russian mountains for some people. That's the reason we tell them open, and yeah, it's to see this process of opening happening. It's yeah, really, really nice. I love that.
I love that. I love that. And what you're talking about there with the, the lot of love in the class for people that haven't been along to any of these classes, you're giving and receiving 5 healings while you're in the class. So you're listening, you're having the kind of presentations, and then you're going away and you are trying out what you've just been taught. And so how that builds is in these five healings. And there's always so much energy in those classes, and it's almost, you can even see it. Because I'm sensitive to being able to see these layers now, you can see it in the class, for me anyway, how much energy there is. And for me, I used to try and get to one every single year, because I had that really profound shift the first time, because I was coming from, I guess, an unhappy place in my life, or just living an unhappy life, or less. There was a lot of discontentment, dissatisfaction, um, and kind of without knowing it, almost. And when that switch happened, because it felt like a switch was, switched on, and that I suddenly was switched on, sort of thing. Um, I That was a big shift to come from one to the other. And then every year I would go back to, what I'd actually felt was that every time I went back, it was kind of another layer was peeled off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Then you go back again another year, and because you kind of go away into your life, and the way that Martin used to teach it was that when you first came into class, you were in one bubble of, you were experiencing the world through a certain bubble, a filter, perceptual filter,
yeah,
and everything that you experience is coming through that perceptual filter. And then when you've had the healing, only, or you've been at the workshop for the weekend or the few days or whatever, it's like you're in a new bubble, and that old bubble, you're still slightly in it, but it's mostly sort of behind you now, because you're resonating with this new bubble. And that you are, when you go back into the world, you're encouraging the perception that the healing has happened, i.e., really feeling yourself in this new bubble and noticing those shifts. So for me, when I first had that healing, it was walking home afterwards, and I could see the people's faces on the other side of the street, which I couldn't do before because it was all blurry before. But now I could see their actual features of their face. And the street where the London College of Psychic Studies is, it's High Street, Kensington in London. And they're huge, huge, big, wide roads. So for me to be able to see the person on the other side of the street was
yeah,
wow. And then I went into a shop, and a bit like you were saying, being at the disco, and just feeling really kind of self-conscious. That's what it had always been like for me. And I went into the shop, and I just had this interaction with the person behind the desk. And and that was a really new feeling for me. It's like, I feel okay. I feel different. I feel able to, I guess I was not disconnected anymore. That layer, that filter of fear was removed. And now it just felt really easy and natural for me to talk to people. Whereas before I was kind of hiding away and not really, feeling able to just be myself. Yeah, subtle shifts, but really life changing.
Yes, that's the most important thing, in fact, that the feedback, because the healing, so you have a lot of healing techniques and therapy and so on, bringing the energy system again in a state of balance. But the most important, because after a healing, a person can feel different, good, and full of energy. But after, when they go back in their daily life, if they don't know what was happening in their consciousness, which situation they attention, so it's really easy to come back to the same scenario as before and to recreate the same tension and the same situation, same symptom. So we can say the feedback is to ground the person, to ground the healing in the person, in the physical reality. When the healer is has good perception and give a good feedback, so the person gets points of reference about what they had in their consciousness before the healing, and about the tension they had in their consciousness, and they know what they need to pay attention to when they go back in their daily life. And it's for me important to insist about a state of vigilance, because yeah, vigilance is not some hours a day, it's all day long. You have to be vigilant, and we know that the direction of the energy is from the consciousness to the energy field to the physical body. And when we don't listen to our intuition, the first level of communication will be our emotion, saying, hey, you do something that is not okay. But because each of us, we have the free will, so if we don't want to listen to our emotion, the next level of communication will be our physical body, and we create a symptom or we attract a difficult situation in our life. And so when the person knows the tools, and in fact, what Martin did, it's to demystify the process of healing, and it's so clearly explained. And I remember, because we are teaching also the vision workshop, okay, and the same idea, but based on so the eyesight and what you need to do in your consciousness in order to have clarity again in your consciousness and in your eyes. And it's like because he was computer expert before, and he built the vision workshop, and after the BMS, like oh, you have a black box, and you put a person on this side having glasses, okay, or contact lenses, and instead of massaging data, okay, you massage the consciousness, and out from this black box is coming a person seeing clearly. So so everything in the workshop is made in order to bring this the person to this state of clarity in their consciousness, and in the vision workshop, but also in the BMS workshop. And that was also what impressed me at first, and what is impressive for a lot of participants coming to the workshop, the clarity and the easiness, because these techniques can be also taught to children because it's so easy,
Yeah, that's
And in
right.
fact, it's easier with children because they work. Healing is working with your imagination, and the child, most of the children, they have an imagination very vivid.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's why I loved it when I found it, because
Mm.
I've always been really imaginative too, and I see the imagery. I see really clearly. I can see it, so I used to really love it. You can play with it. You're when you're doing these healings, you can get as creative as you want with it. But what I really liked about the system was
Mm.
that it's no nonsense. Because Martin was very no nonsense about it.
Yeah.
I had been doing Reiki for years before. I'd probably been doing Reiki for about 9 years before
Mm.
I went to a body mirror system class. And it was very different because there was nothing you needed. You didn't need to do this or that, or say this first or that first or whatever. It's just like, boom, right? You're saying to the person, how can I help? The person says, I want to be healed from this, and this. Right, okay. They're sitting on the chair. You don't even need the chair. You could be sitting on the ground. I've done that for people where they've
Yeah.
been sitting on the ground, and bang, you're in and you're there. You fill them with white light, which we of course taught in the first part of the workshop. It's the first healing we're taught, and then going into each chakra, and you just see what you see, and you trust what you see. And even if it doesn't mean anything to you, when you give that feedback to the person, they always know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I really love that they're kind of very simple but extremely powerful, and just, yeah, trusting what you see and going with it. And it really does open you up, I feel.
But also, yeah, what is important is to put everybody again in in the driver's seat in their consciousness, to give that they feel again their power. Okay, because a lot of people are so under control, so in their family or with their partner or whatever, and it's like because speaking about eyesight, you see like it's epidemic now. A lot of people so have this tension in their consciousness, and now we saw a lot of people make this laser surgery, and so we don't see anymore these people with glasses and contact lenses so often that we saw before. But we know that also a lot of people doing laser surgery after they come back to the blurriness again because the tension in their consciousness they put it again, and
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's I can imagine that. That's what happens if people have laser surgery and then they go to the vision classes. Does that just kind of correct itself?
yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah. Some people came also, they had cataract and they had a surgery, an operation, and they got
yeah.
this lens remove and a new lens. Yeah, everything is energy. So also something physical is just energy, just black holes, white holes, and in a state of motion, and we can do anything. I think that's was also what impressed me with Martin ideas. It's anything can be healed. You can heal anything, and to open the doors for any possibilities. So when it happens, people looking from outside they say it's a miracle, but in fact it's not a miracle. It's just the way the universe function and the consciousness function. And for me, it's this idea that when it's to be without limits and to approach the experience of healing as a healer and like that, and also to open the healing consciousness to the possibility of the full manifestation now. And that's also different from other technique, just one session healing. Okay, and so that's a possibility that is offered. After, when it happens like that, we look at the combination, what was happening in the healer consciousness in daily, and this great combination was manifesting this immediate healing. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we look to repeat this experience as often as possible. But sometimes it doesn't happen like that. Sometimes it's step by step because also maybe the healer has some doubt, saying, oh, maybe I'm not able to do that. So he brings resistances to the process. Or maybe the healer say, oh, I prefer to change step by step because I am a bit sensitive. And so you have a partial healing instead of a total healing. Or some people don't want to change their way of being because even if it's uncomfortable, they feel better than a change. So it happened also like that.
Yeah, some people want to kind of hold on to certain
Yeah.
situations that are related to, what it is that they are experiencing. So it can be like that sometimes too. I always found it interesting the way that, from the outside, people would say, "Well, this is impossible. It doesn't follow the laws of whatever it was that they were, going by. Whether they would be
Mm.
the kind of rational ways that the world works, the sort of workings of the world." Um,
Mm.
but then, these are working with other laws, universal laws that show that it is possible. I've seen things happen, and I know you have too. What kinds of healings have taken place in the classes that you've hosted? Are you able to talk about that, or is it too sensitive?
Yeah, but the first one was showing one intensive with Martin. I was participating, so that was the
Yeah.
first one that impressed me. So it was a Scottish doctor. He was blind from one eye, And suddenly, after healing, he could see again through his eye. That was the first time. And another time also with Martin. So there was this young man. His parents brought him to the experience because he was a bit with the brain and so during the workshop for the experience to feel energy, to direct the energy, he was playing a bit this role of. And Martin talked to him very clearly and said, I know you are able to do that. And in fact, he was after giving healings and giving feedbacks. And when the parents came at the end of the intensive, they didn't recognize him. And because it was such a change, and for me, it was, wow, I know anything is possible. And yeah, after in my classes, I had some experiences like that. And for me, the most important, one time I was giving a talk and in a center with people in wheelchair. And in fact, just one show up, one person in wheelchair, the other they were not interested. And this guy after, so he came to the workshop. And in fact, when you give a healing to a person in a wheelchair, you have to remove him to sit it in a normal chair. Otherwise, it's like you don't believe he
Yeah.
can be healed. And yeah, it was a really nice experience. And after he stood up and he made some steps, and it's a big shift in their consciousness. I know again, so that's a very important part also in the healer consciousness to see that everybody is able to go beyond their perceived limit. But for that also, it's everybody in the family, they should also change their consciousness. Otherwise, it maintains a person in a state of powerless, and it doesn't help them to jump out of their scenario. And it's what I insist on during the workshop, And yeah, there are a lot of healings happening. I have a big list, but I
Hmm.
don't think it's the
Yeah.
time to speak about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, that's really interesting. And well, I hope to make it over to one of your classes. I think, as I said, the last time you met was in Champagne. I do want to get back there, and I really want to go. Well, I want to go back there also because it was Martin's favorite place, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And I do think about him a lot. I think he's with all of us, isn't he? And yeah, so I'd love to go back there for those memories. And but also I am going to make it to the Greek class at some point because those are really fun. So what have you got coming up then with
when?
your classes? Which events have you got coming up in the next?
The event is next week, so Friday to the
Oh,
2024, I think.
yeah, yeah.
20, yeah, to Tuesday. It's an intensive level one in Greece. And after in November, I have 2 weekends, one in Sardinia, okay, and one in Rome. Okay, and I'm happy because it looks like Italy is opening again. It was so during some years no workshop there,
Mhm.
and yeah, and after I go back to Greece in the first weekend of December in Athens for a weekend,
Oh,
a
wow.
BMS weekend. Yeah, so
That's really busy then. You've been super, super busy, and that's just this that's just this site, the end of this year. My goodness me. Oh well.
yeah,
Well, it's lovely to see you, Philippe. Thanks very much for dropping in and and having a catch up with me. And
yeah,
it'd be lovely to see you in person again. But
yeah. It would be nice.
you
Okay,
haven't changed. You still look exactly the same as
oh, thank you.
in 2012. It's
Yeah,
absolute madness.
yeah. Yeah.
Because, of course, Viola.
But I'm a bit yeah, I'm a bit older. But my physical body is a bit older, but in my consciousness is still it's the same age. Maybe sometimes I feel like a child.
Well, when you're working with these ideas, it's just, I feel like it must be a really vibrant way to live your life, constantly. Because I guess they're almost like rebirthing for people sometimes. It's like
Yeah,
people kind of being birthed into this new reality. It's what it always feels like to me. Of course, Viola, your partner, she is also a body mirror system teacher.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
So so the two of you heading off and doing great work in the world, and yeah.
She has a workshop in Berlin next week.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
nice.
And
Oh,
yeah, she's teaching in Austria. It's a school there. They organize yoga, massage, and healing, and so it's really nice. It's a castle in Austria near Graz. Very nice place. Yeah, and she's teaching there. Yeah, yeah.
and are those classes, which languages are they held?
In German, yeah, but
Yeah.
also, and for me, it's in English and with Greek or Italian translation or Portuguese or
Right.
whatever. Yeah,
So
yeah,
brilliant. That's really good to know. So I used to go down to the ones in Nice,
yeah,
which were English
yeah,
with French translation, which was
yeah,
probably
yeah,
Francisco.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they were
great.
always a good crack. And I also
Mm,
brushed up on my French there. I was always quite chuffed with myself because by the time I got home, because you have all your meals together and
mm,
and I was really trying to
yeah,
get my ear in.
yeah.
And by the time I came home, I could often kind of have some kind of conversation in French. So I was delighted with myself. But no, I don't know. It's been some time now. Maybe I should try and do that again. But well, thanks a lot, Philippe. And I hope
Thanks.
to see
And
you
yeah,
as soon as I
see
can.
you on the way.
On the way. Yeah.
Yeah, have a nice evening and see you. Bye. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for listening and watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider joining us on Patreon for dozens more episodes of unreleased bonus content, monthly online events, and a private chat. We are a warm, supportive community, and it really helps to support the project. Find us on patreon.com/The Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast.